Like most things, we feel like we need a label. So in the case of today's video, we place the label of automatic writing on the act of surrendering to the energy that very much wants to come through for all of us. For some, it may come through with writing. For others, it could be music or painting or acting. But notice what all these things have in common. They are creative acts. Creativity connects us to the same source energy that exists within each and every one of us. The more we connect, the more we practice, the more we surrender. So for today, we are going to talk about automatic writing. Before we begin, I am Tina Moody. As always, I am the author of The Spiritual Awakening of an Analytical Mind, as well as co-host to the podcast Intuition Talks, and now more recently here on YouTube, still trying to figure out exactly what I need to be posting out to all of you. But here we go. Okay, so to begin our discussion on automatic writing, I am first going to share how it emerged in my life. And the reason that I'm going to do this is if you happen to think that you are not capable of it, you need to get to know me. And I think that will make you feel better and more able, we'll just say. So as I've mentioned in past videos, I stepped onto this path of self-awakening during my divorce, and that was 2016. I began a consistent meditation practice around 2018. And then the later part of that year, like summer, early fall, I began keeping a daily journal of my what I called spiritual escapades at that time. So there was this consistent progression of my evolution, we'll say. And by 2019, 2020, this journal had kind of evolved, and it was starting to become a reference guide for my manuscript, which then became The Spiritual Awakening of an Analytical Mind. But it wasn't until October 9th, 2020, as I was getting up from this desk that I'm sitting at right now, and I started moving across the room, where I sensed this message come through, the first message come through. And it was phrased and worded not from our generation, we'll just say. It had old-timey type feel to it. And the messages came through with no thought on my part. In fact, I didn't think that I had intuition at that moment in time. And when I got a glimmer of maybe some intuition, my thinking brain would get involved and my intuition would run for cover, kind of thing. So these messages started coming through quickly, no thought on my part. My pencil could barely keep up. And over the course of that afternoon, 50 messages came through. And this is the notebook. So this was my just general notebook. I was doing some other things and had just formed a lot of my social media type stuff. But they just, oh, sorry, I thought I was going to be there. They started coming through. Like, I started just at the bottom of a page that I already had writing on. And all these messages started coming through. They weren't big ones. They were little phrases, and there were 50 of them, and they went down to there. And that was just that afternoon. A lot of things went on there for a few days, we'll just say that. I freaked out just ever so slightly, but over the next 3 years, the messages didn't continue in that same way. Since that time, so since October 9th, 2020, I've tried to figure out what these messages were. And what it has kind of settled into is, one, I keep sometimes it's daily, sometimes it's not, but I sit and I call it tapping in, and I write messages for myself. So that's one. The other thing is I had already had a Monday newsletter that I sent out as to my email distribution, which was a lot of kind of the progression of the book, but that evolved into sharing messages for that collective. And I've done that for 2+ years now. I also was part of a friend's Patreon collective where I would sit and get messages for that collective, and then I'd give my 2 cents on it. And so that lasted again for 2 years. I've recently stopped doing that for nothing bad, but it feels like things evolve. My podcast had started a year ago, and what brought Kristen and I together in many ways was this bit of channeling, which I didn't consider myself a channeler. And she and I take turns each week on our podcast offering a channel for those listeners. So part of me in telling you this story is so that you can see that it has evolved over time. This was not an overnight thing. And so patience, I would say, is one of my biggest pieces of advice. The other part is that I came from corporate insurance and real estate investing and sales, not from this world. And my brain, and therefore fear, they stand on high alert, we'll say. And that's part of my own personal tortoise pace, and some of you may feel that as well. The other thing is sometimes different practices will come into our lives and we may not see their place for us, but oftentimes they are to prime us for what comes next. So nothing seems to be a waste of time on this path. And so I would say if you are delving into this and trying new things, if it's popped up for a reason, and trust that. But lower your expectations or throw your expectations out the door and just allow it to evolve. So I guess trust is the biggest thing there. And with that, we really don't need to force things. What is meant for you will arrive, or meant for any of us will arrive when it is supposed to arrive. And so we need to, again, patience and trust are really the biggest things. Funny enough, I never looked up automatic writing until I was prepping for this a little bit, and I was curious. So this is my advice for me, and you may feel differently, but I kind of liked not knowing the steps. I think I am a different bird kind of thing. And I think had I known what you need to do or not do, as some people will post, do these 6 things or don't do these, and be cautious or do this. Like, I think it would have stopped me for allowing the flow that fits for my personality. Does that make sense? So that would be another little piece of advice as well. So I'm just going to touch on quickly what automatic writing actually is and the benefits of it, because there's so many videos out there, quite honestly, a couple that I had picked up on and looked, that you can get the do this, do this, do this, do this kind of thing. And actually they were great. So I'll let them be the experts on it, but I kind of just want to give you a general feel. So for me, automatic writing is stepping out of the way for whatever really wants to just come through to us. And it's connecting to source energy. It's connecting to our higher self. And again, for me, I can call it writing, or I can call it tapping in, or connecting, for a message. But it makes me feel grounded and connected to this world that can sometimes be spinning around us. And that's what it does for me. When I really feel up here, due to whatever circumstance, my own life, my family's life, or the world around us, I can tell when I haven't checked in for a few days. Actually, that was today. I all of a sudden looked down and I hadn't checked in for 5 days. So in many ways, these guides that we're tapping into, or this energy that we're tapping into, can feel like our own personal cheerleader as well, and guide. And it's this incredibly intimate relationship that you form. And that may sound super strange for anybody that hasn't done it. And I would be right there with you, quite honestly, and had I not known. In fact, I think the reason that those first messages came through would have shocked me into believing, because I was not on that spectrum. Does that make sense? So connecting for me has kind of opened my awareness more and allowed me to kind of flow more easily with situations that happen in life, and not get so hung up as I used to get on stress or whatever the situation. Real quickly, I just want to show you, because it's kind of funny, I think, the personal messages that I sit for on a regular basis. Again, sometimes it's daily, sometimes it's every couple days or so on. In this case, it had been 5 days since I had checked in. But a couple funny things is that they always come through. They always come through, and I have to write them in lines. So I'll just flip to a page here. You can see how they come in columns, right? Always, and have for these 3 years. And I have pages upon pages upon pages of them. The other funny thing is that I am a mechanical pencil fiend. I love them. But for this purpose, it was always, you need to write with, a regular pencil like this. And so this was one of my favorite birthday presents recently. My partner got me one of these, which has that old sound that grinding sound from when we were kids. And it's my favorite thing. It keeps all my pencils nice and sharp. So anyway, that's from a personal standpoint. Those are the benefits that I find in my life from doing it. And yeah. Okay, so again, I'm not going to tell you exactly how you should do it. You can listen to your intuition first, I will say, but you can look up some other videos that go into some very detailed specifics, and maybe I'll tag them in the show notes. But what I will tell you is some broad suggestions. And the first is just write. Journal if you need to, because there's a stream of consciousness that comes through when we just put the pencil to paper and just write. And if you need something a little bit more guided, I would highly recommend The Artist's Way, which I've talked to about in another video on here, I believe, by Julia Cameron. It's been out for a lot of years, since the 90s. And it's a 12-week course, but in that 12-week course, she demands that we keep these morning pages, and you may have heard them. They're all across YouTube. They're all across probably Instagram and TikTok and all that. But these morning pages are really stream of conscious. She demands that you write 3 pages freehand every single day over those 12 weeks. And there's people that have been doing that for years because of the benefits that come from it. And I cannot recommend it enough. After kind of putting it off time and time again, after the book was recommended to me, I finally did it at January 1st, I started, of 2022. So my book was already out, but it still brought other great things to me. And I had already still been doing automatic writing, but it helps heal, helps cleanse a little bit in here. And I may be ready to engage with it again, as I have been discussing that book more recently on the podcast and different things. And it's a great primer. Morning pages are a great primer for automatic writing. So those are a couple things I recommend. Another one is meditation. Again, if you're not a meditator, and I get that because it was tough for me, go out and find your sources and try to learn it. But first, try to listen to yourself. Try to quiet and listen to yourself. All the answers are really inside you if you just give it some space. But meditation is connecting to that same source energy as the creativity that we just discussed. And it's really a great predecessor to connecting for automatic writing as well. The other one, breathe. None of us breathe deeply and well. We're all shallow breathers in today's world. And so if you can connect, and that's part of meditation too, connect and breathe. Whenever I tap in, now there's some people that say it takes 20 minutes to clear. I'm a quick tapper inner, so I just close my eyes for a second, take a deep breath in a second, and I can start writing. But that's not the case for everybody. And that some of that may be I've done a lot of other work as well. So, we all need to heal. We all need to clean our chakras. We all need to straighten up and get that life force energy flowing. And so that's part of it. And I've done that work already. So if you haven't, that is a step in here that I would say is worth doing. So it's all connected. Like if you want to connect for automatic writing, you've got to connect in multiple ways and really take care of your vessel as well. Because what you're asking your vessel, being your body, to do is be a conduit. And that needs to be cleaned up a little bit, we'll say. So I think that's it. Just write. Don't ask somebody for permission, that you need to be doing this for 5 years or 2 years or whatever it may be, and you need to do X, Y, and Z. Yes, you can keep doing X, Y, and Z to get things better, but just start writing. Just start doing it. Start those morning pages. You can do it. And, will you question that it's just not you and your brain simply coming through? Absolutely, all the time. And I still do it sometimes, quite honestly. So, we got to get that thinking brain out of the head and just allow things to come through. And with that, before I leave you, I had the urge to sit and pull a message for all of you, or tap in for a message, or sit and connect for a message for all of you. And this was as I was prepping the other day, so it's a couple days old, but nonetheless, it is still for all of you who may watch that, and it's a quick one. No need to look beyond yourself for the answers you seek. It is in the stillness you provide where you will begin to hear the whispers. So I kind of feel like we just talked about that as well. So give yourself a chance to hear those whispers. Don't just automatically come here to YouTube and have somebody tell you exactly what you need to do, because we are all different. So trust yourself, trust your intuition, and just practice, I would say. And with that, that's a wrap. Thank you all for joining me today, or whenever you may watch this. I so appreciate it, and I hope you will come back next week and see what I have up my sleeve. If you would like to purchase my book, A Little Self-Serving, you can go to my website, tinalmoody.com, and you will find it there. If you shoot me a quick message, I would be happy to sign it before it gets sent out. And with that, thank you again. As always, be well and keep stepping forward.